Gene editing.
Scientists tried editing genes inside someone's body.
Splicing.
They modify them by splicing in DNA from another organism.
And the creation of hybrid species is on the rise. These genetically engineered chimera are just the latest in a long line of unnatural creations to walk the earth. The first to master this forbidden science were the Watchers, otherwise known as ancient aliens, fallen angels, and the gods of old. Demons. These rebellious angels commingled their seed with human DNA and animal DNA. This history is documented in a vast number of ancient texts found on every continent on planet Earth. This commingling resulted in the creation of giants and what we commonly refer to as monsters. Chapter 1.
The Book of Giants, composed in Aramaic, is dated with certainty to at least the 2nd century BC, if not much earlier. The content of the manuscript, though severely fragmented, expounds on the narrative of the Book of Enoch concerning the fall of the angelic watchers, their malevolent hybrid offspring, and the great flood that ensued as a result.
The aliens are so fascinated with human reproduction, especially abductions, especially extraction, the female egg. The whole realm of human sexuality seems to be the breeding grounds for aliens.
Helen would later state that they were brought onto an alien craft for experiments and had eggs removed from their bodies via an invasive tube stuck into their stomach.
The Book of Giants describes in detail how the fallen angels insidiously corrupted the genetics of all flesh on the earth. It tells us specifically 200 rams of the flock, 200 goats, 200 beasts of the field, from every animal, from every bird, were selected for miscegenation. The word miscegenation refers to the mixing of races or species, particularly in the context of sexual intercourse. They defiled, they begot giants and monsters, they begot, and behold, all the earth was corrupted.
To the myths and the legends, as I've stated before, of Atlantis, Hyperborea, Ultima Thule, every single legend, you can't escape the idea that the gods came to Earth, mated with Earth women, and produced a hybrid race of beings. And what becomes even more pronounced is that now genetic engineering and genetic alteration using CRISPR technology, using gene splicing, using stem cells as basically your basis for building whatever you want, the hybridization, the cross-species transgenic movement, growing quote-unquote human organs in animals such as pigs or other animals, you're going to see and hear and experience technology you've never even imagined exists on this planet. You're going to be razzled and dazzled. You're going to be presented with strange signs and wonders in the sky. You're going to see three-dimensional holographic images take physicality. You're going to see demons, and I'm talking literal evil spirits manifesting along with monsters. Because again, it is the ultimate goal of genetic engineering to do away with the human race.
Believe it or not, American scientists have genetically modified 50 cows to be part human. They found a way of inserting human DNA into cow eggs, and so a human-cow hybrid is created. People are divided on whether these experiments are ethical.
Genetic engineers, transhumanists, working for the globalist, who in their own words admit, going back to the 1970s, that they had a plan to patent every major food crop and then every major life form, prolific life form on this planet, and put artificial genes, genetics, DNA, RNA into them to manipulate viruses, bacteria, And now that's been done with tens of thousands of different species. In some cases, hundreds of different species are being spliced together. You know about spider goats that are part goat, part spider that produce body armor in their milk. You've read about the super salmon that university studies have shown will extinct the normal salmon that are in the ocean. And these salmon, different varieties, have been mixed with other fish, insects, plants. The list goes on and on.
Hermann Oberth, who pioneered rocket design for the German Reich, the Third Reich, during World War II, and later advanced rocket technology for the American planned space launches, cryptically stated, "We cannot take credit for our record advancement in certain scientific fields alone. We have been helped." When asked by whom, he replied, "The people of other worlds, the entities from other dimensions." Okay? He's talking about principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. In other words, beyond what we see. I called them transmorphic demonic entities. It's about ancient technology, ancient weapons, and controlling ancient DNA.
Everybody's seen this, it's been all over the news. This is what we call the Atacama humanoid.
Of all ways, from a clinical standpoint, it's a human mutation, right? One of the things that has to be answered, because just a preliminary examination of this sample is that it is obviously older than just an aborted fetus, right? So preliminary examination tells you that this is a small human, perhaps, right, that has lived post-birth for a sufficiently long period of time. In the most interesting and outrageous case, it is something that is not human and not primate, but still hominid. How do we explain a hominid that small? So the answer is, before we get too excited and spend too much time speculating, is let's just use the techniques that we use in the laboratory every single day to answer the question. Ralph Lockman.
We went to Barcelona where this little being is stored. We took exact x-rays that he requested from Stanford and brought them back, hand carried them back, as well as on a computerized disc, which is now on our website. You can see it. He looked at it and he said, well, first of all, there is no form of dwarfism or genetic defect that explains everything seen in this being.
So one of the first things that Dr. Lockman immediately remarked upon was the shape of the head and the skull. That it was not something that he is accustomed to seeing.
What you'll also see is that he says it has 10 ribs.
Occasionally there are human mutations where there's perhaps 11 ribs, but only rarely is it ever seen that there is 10, and then never are those kinds of mutations seen associated with the other features of the skull and or face. So again, if this is human, and it has a constellation of mutations that have not been seen before, it doesn't discount that it might be such a constellation of mutations, but it's just that they've never been seen before.
What he didn't notice, but I will point out to you, it has 4 skull bones, rather than the 6 major ones we have. The epiphyseal plates, if you look at the x-ray, which is the growth plates. You know when you have, the growth plates in a kid and they hurt their leg? The growth plates and the bone density is that of a 6 to 8-year-old. Number 2, how did it live? It was found in the driest place on earth, the Atacama Desert in Chile, northern Chile. Is that 9% of the genetic material is, quote, unmatching. Now, this is on a computerized run at the best lab in the world out of Stanford, and it was checked 3 times. There may be more of these. We're on the lead to one that may exist and have been found in Puerto Rico. There are reports that there are more of these that are in Chile, and we have videotapes and photographs of a creature that looks very similar to this one that was a little more mature, maybe less than a foot tall, that was found in Russia, was kept alive for a number of months apparently. I found out about it in 1996, but too late. The FSB, which took the place of the KGB, had apparently confiscated it by then. So we have to be very careful. I'm not saying it's ET. I'm saying we don't know. But looking at the big clinical picture, it just cannot just be a normal defected human if it lived to be 6 to 8 years of age.
Mummified finger. Gregory Spiri, a well-known entrepreneur from Switzerland, used to work as a private investigator. In 1988, he contacted and met with an old man from a grave robber dynasty in a farmhouse about 100 kilometers northeast of Cairo to take a look at the family treasure, which was wrapped in old rags. It was a giant finger, and it appeared rather grotesque, chopped at the bone with a fingernail still attached to it. It was also accompanied by an X-ray photo. Sporty said, "I was totally flabbergasted when I saw the dark brown giant finger. I was allowed to take it in hand and also to take pictures. A bill was put next to it to get a size comparison. The bent finger was split open and covered with dry mold." The old man said the finger was found in the grave of a giant mummy somewhere near the Giza pyramids. Were the finger to belong to a human being, that human would be some 16 feet or nearly 5 meters tall. Spiri tried to compel the old man to sell the finger, but the old man would not, saying it was too important to his family.
Horned Nephilim, remains of ancient giant skeletons found in North America, in Pennsylvania, Susquehanna Valley. Of all the mysterious and eerie archaeological discoveries, none matches the Sire burial mound in Bradford County, Pennsylvania. The burial mound was found at the end of the 19th century by the fluke of 3 researchers unaware of what was lying beneath their feet. The 3 researchers were a group of distinguished antiquarians, including the Pennsylvania state historian and dignitary of the Presbyterian Church, Dr. G.P. Donahoe, A.B. Skinner of the American Investigative Museum, and W.K. Moorhead of Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts. Instead of finding Native American bodies at Spanish Hill, the researchers unraveled beneath the burial mound several outlandish skeletons due to their impressive height, over 7 feet tall. These skeletons in particular presented another trait that has never been recorded among humans: real horns protruding from their foreheads, 2 inches above their eyebrows. It's estimated that they had been buried in the 13th century AD. The map of where the Sire Mound is, it's just at the border of Pennsylvania and New York State, underneath the Finger Lakes region. That's near Ithaca, New York. More intriguing is the fact that the local people reported bizarre apparitions that closely resembled the horned skeletons found in the Sire burial mound. Like many fresh archaeological findings, soon after the skeletons were sent to the Philadelphia Museum, they were allegedly stolen, quote-unquote, or misplaced and lost. Apparently, these pieces of history could have shed some light on the prehistoric inhabitants of North America of those days. On the other side, some claim these skeletons are the remains of beings who served for higher purposes, suggesting a culture of the Nephilim and their offspring, altogether forming the, quote, shining ones, end quote, often depicted as being with horns. The horns symbolize wisdom and rulership, and this correlation can be seen in many shamanistic cultures where members ornate their heads with horns. According to the theory of writer Mary Sutherland, the use of horns as garnishment in headpieces was done to display kinship with the Atlantean bloodline with the right to rule. You can see an article that made public the story of the horned skeletons in the page of the Moorhead expedition. According to Deb Twigg, Executive Director of the Susquehanna River Archaeological Center of Native Indian Studies, SRAC, this is the headline from the earliest news article that she could find. It's from the 1916 as opposed to the 1880s article. And this article goes on to say that this is, quote, one of the most remarkable scientific discoveries in history made here. 68 skeletons of men living 700 years ago unearthed between Sire and Waverley. A queer fellow. He was 7 feet in height, horns protruding from his skull. Horns of solid bone which grew straight out of the skull about 2 inches above the perfectly formed skull, and which gave every evidence of having been there since birth. The legends of many Native Americans tell of an early race of giants responsible for the megalithic structures that can be found across all of North America. When the first settlers asked the Native Americans about the peculiar megalithic structures, they came with an answer that wouldn't satisfy the skeptics. The entire land was inhabited a very long time ago by an ancient race of powerful people that had emerged from the sea.
Meet Capdua, a mysterious 3.5 meter tall two-headed giant from Patagonia. This is an area including the south of Argentina and Chile in South America. The story goes that in 1673, this massive two-headed giant was captured by Spanish sailors, where he remained captive until he was killed while trying to escape. Apparently, the Spaniards killed him by piercing a pike through his chest. Ouch. The story fades away after that, but it is believed that his mummified remains somehow got to England in the 19th century. In 1914, after being passed from one showman to another, the mummified remains of Capdua ended up at Weston's Burnback Pier. There his remains spent some 45 years on display until Lord Thomas Howard purchased remains in 1959. Capdua continued to amaze people and somehow ended up in a strange collection at Bob's Sideshow at the Antique Man Limited in Baltimore, owned by Robert Gerber. Capdua was said to be around 3.5 meters or 11.5 feet tall. Just for your reference, the tallest person ever recorded was 2 meters and 72 centimeters or 8 feet and 11.1 inch tall. What is also fascinating is that this giant has 2 heads, which could be explained by conjoined twins, a medical condition where twins have their body parts fused together. So what is also interesting is that this giant is said to have come from Patagonia, a region with more encounters of giants. There have been several written accounts of these giants by various explorers. In 1579, Sir Francis Drake's chaplain Francis Fletcher wrote about meeting very tall Patagonians. In the 1590s, Anthony Knivet claimed to have seen dead bodies that were about 3.7 meters or 12 feet long in Patagonia. Also in the 1590s, William Adams, an Englishman aboard a Dutch ship rounding Tierra del Fuego, reported a violent encounter between the ship's crew and unnaturally tall natives.
It's kind of hard to see because it's in a, oh my gosh, let's see how long this is because there's stuff on top of the case. Hold on. Yeah, it said it was pierced in the chest. I have to look at that because you can't see it. There's a glare. Hold on. There's the piercing right there in the chest. You can see that. I'm going to go down there. I gotta squish through here. Oh my goodness, look at the feet.
In May 2007, this strange creature was found on a farm in Mexico. The farmer drowned it out of fear. Since the end of 2008, researchers have been carrying out tests on the corpse, but the mystery is deepening. Even serious scientists are wondering if this creature comes from another planet. The tests showed that the being is not known to exist on Earth. Its body has characteristics of both lizards and humans. It also has a large brain, a sign that it was probably highly intelligent. There are frequent UFO sightings and reports of crop circles in the area. Farmers also reported seeing a second creature flee the scene.
at least 5 people claim to have seen the creature alive. Mario Marino Lopez, the ranch owner, a government official Mario showed it to, and 3 of his employees.
But Jesus also includes a rather strange warning. He says, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the days of the coming of the Son of Man be." It's recorded in several places, Matthew 24, verse 37 being one of them. Now, he could have meant that very denotatively, or he may have meant something much more broad. One of the reasons we can't relate too well to that is most of us have not done the homework as what were the days of Noah like.
To be continued.